Hello everyone, Diamond Liger here with a review for you. Today, I will be looking at X-Men Apocalypse, the latest in Fox's X-Men series. Overall, I felt like this movie was okay. It currently has like a 50-something% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'll be honest, that's about right, because I enjoyed the movie, certainly, but compared to the previous release, Days of Future Past, I felt like this one was a bit weak in terms of character development. But first, the good. Pretty much anything that actually gets an emotional response out of you has to do with Magneto. There's an opening scene with him, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but it is really heart-wrenching stuff, and this guy has been through hell. And for what happens to him in this movie to be just that final nail in the coffin that makes him join the side of Apocalypse, it really got to me. It was really emotional. James McAvoy as Professor X, he also does a great job as usual. For any of the movies these two appear in, these two guys are the highlight. But Magneto and Professor X are obviously not the only mutants present in this film. We have several new characters and some who are old characters but recast. And I want to give my thoughts on those real quick. Probably the best of the new cast members is Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. I'll be honest, Jean Grey in the comics and in these movies, she really isn't doing much for me in terms of being an interesting character. But Sophie Turner did a really good job, and I'm interested to see her story continue in more movies. I thought the new Cyclops did a good job. I like the new Nightcrawler a lot. Quicksilver is amazing, as you'd expect. And I'm looking forward to seeing this new cast in more things. My last major good thing to say about this movie is that there are really cool scenes in it. I don't want to get into spoilers, but Wolverine, as you know from the trailers, he appears in this movie, and his scene was great. There's a scene you see in the trailers where Professor X's mind gets taken over by Apocalypse. That scene was great. These are very visually interesting scenes, and you do feel the emotion of the characters in these scenes. But that's the thing with X-Men Apocalypse. It's a collection of cool scenes that doesn't necessarily work as a cohesive whole. Like, I said the Wolverine cameo was great, but it is really pointless and doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's just there to be like, hey, Wolverine's in this movie. Isn't that cool? Yeah, it is cool, but it isn't really relevant at all. In general, I feel like this movie suffers from a lack of depth in terms of its characters. Like, Civil War, we had that not too long ago. That, I felt, expanded more on the characters' emotions and their personalities. You got to know these guys, even though there were so many in this movie. So that's why I'm not buying the excuse of, oh, they can't do too much character depth because there are just so many X-Men. No, that's bull. You can just spend a bit of time with each one so that you really get to know them. This goes for Apocalypse as well. Oscar Isaac is a fantastic actor, and he does fine enough as Apocalypse, but you don't really get to know the philosophy of him all that well. You know he's a Darwinist, and that he will create a world where the strongest mutants will survive, but aside from that, you don't really get to know the guy too much. Just me personally, City Destruction isn't doing anything for me anymore. I don't feel that invested when CGI dust and rubble is everywhere. It just isn't that interesting to me anymore. I prefer what the Captain America movies have been doing, hand-to-hand combat. That's just more fascinating to me. I'm not saying you can't have collateral damage. I'm just saying, if that is the main thing in your action segments, it shouldn't be. It should be more character action-driven. That, and I feel like for at least a good half of the movie, all the characters are just kind of stumbling around. Like, in Days of Future Past, there is a goal. Prevent the Sentinel program from being unleashed and prevent the future from becoming a wasteland and a hellhole. But at least for the third or half of the movie, Apocalypse is just kind of gathering mutants. Professor X doesn't really have a goal. He's just at the school. Magneto has no goal. He's just with his family. Mystique just visits the X-Mansion out of the blue. We don't know why at first she is looking for mutants. There's a scene early on where she recruits Nightcrawler. No spoilers, but why? The first half of this movie, it feels a bit directionless because it's just getting everybody together so that the real plot can start. It's not like Batman versus Superman level of directionless and wandering and dumb, but it is noticeable, and it kept me from really getting hooked into this movie. So overall, X-Men Apocalypse is alright. There are some amazing scenes, the actors all do a good job, but as a whole, the movie kind of lacks direction for at least the first half, and you don't get to know the characters as much as you want to because you do like these characters and these actors, but you don't get to know them as well as you should. But there's still a lot of stuff to enjoy, so by all means, go out and see it. Those were my thoughts on X-Men Apocalypse. I hope you enjoyed it, and take care.